It's hard to believe that it already has been 3 years since that tragic diagnosis. It's hard to believe that Rabbi Yisroel Halpert is no longer with us. Yisroel was such an integral member of the Fifth Avenue Synagogue community. He was part of its very fabric. His identity was one with FAS. When people thought of the shul, one of the images that would come to their mind was Yisroel Halpert. This evening, we honor his memory, the memory of Yisroel Yaakov ben David Chaim Alav HaShalom, upon the occasion of his first Yahrzeit. I would like to acknowledge the presence of Yisroel's family, Rivka, Esti, Zach, David, Chavi, and Yair, Yisroel's mother, Ruthie Halpert, Rivka's parents, Rabbi Einseidler and Toby Einseidler, Yisroel's sister and brother-in-law, Adina and Aryeh, and all the uncles, aunts, cousins, and friends who are joining us this evening. I want to briefly share with you what I think was one of Yisroel's greatest contributions to the Fifth Avenue Synagogue community, as well as one thought about his personality. In terms of Yisroel's contributions to the synagogue, there were many. He learned the Torah so beautifully. He davened with great passion. We were always able to rely on him whenever we needed for him to step in. He arranged many aspects of the service so that everything ran efficiently. On a purely technical level, there were many, many areas in which the community benefited from Yisroel. However, I think that Yisroel's greatest contribution was not what he did for the shul, but how he made people feel. He made people enjoy and feel good about coming to services. When someone performs a mitzvah, there's a value in the Torah to make that experience as pleasing and fulfilling as possible. For example, when someone came to ancient Yerushalayim to perform the mitzvah of Bikurim, first fruits, we are told that the inhabitants of Yerushalayim would go out of their way to greet the visitors in a joyous and loving way. The Mishnah says that they would declare, "Our brothers from such and such place, we welcome you in peace." Similarly, the Gemara says that there was once a wealthy individual named Sivan ben Gurion who tried to make it as pleasant as possible for people when they visited the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim on the holidays. It could be hot at certain times of the year, and people needed water to drink. And the experience of visiting Yerushalayim could be very unpleasant if people's mouth was parched. So this man named Sivan ben Gurion rented out a whole slew of drinking wells and made them available for free to the public so that people who came to Yerushalayim would have what to drink. In contrast, the Navi criticizes the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Pinchas, who oversaw the Mishkan, but when people came to visit the Mishkan, they made it unpleasant for the visitors, to the point where people began to despise visiting this holy location. So we see clearly that's the value of our sages when someone visits a holy place, whether it be Yerushalayim, the Beit HaMikdash, or the Mishkan, there's a value to make the experience as pleasant as possible. And I think that this was Yisroel's greatest contribution to our community. He made people feel good when they came to shul. The way he greeted them when they walked in, always with a big smile, a handshake, a cute joke, or a warm word. The way he assisted people finding a seat, the way he helped people recite the Kaddish or show them the place we are up to in the Siddur. What Yisroel did was something very special. He made people enjoy the experience of coming to shul. He made people feel special. He honored Hashem by making Hashem's home his holy place a warm and loving place. In terms of Yisroel's personality, Yisroel helped prove one side of an ancient debate that is recorded in Pirkei Avos. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai famously asked his students to discover the ideal path in life. One of them said the ideal value in life is to have a good eye. Another said to be a good friend or a good neighbor. However, the one who got the answer correct was Rabbi Elazar ben Arach. He said that the ideal trait to master in life is to have a leiv tov, a good heart. A good heart means someone who is happy and satisfied with life, no matter what they may have or may not have. They are content and feel good about life. A person with a good heart knows how to be happy for others. When someone else experiences success, they are genuinely joyous for them. A person with a good heart walks around with a smile constantly on his face. A person with a good heart knows how to laugh. Yisroel Halpert, of blessed memory, had a good heart, a leiv tov. He cared for others. He was a loving son, husband, father, friend, and communal leader. He loved life and he loved people. He was a happy person. He loved telling jokes and he loved to sing. He loved the Yankees and would be very pleased this year. He definitely left his imprint upon the Fifth Avenue Synagogue community. He made a difference in people's lives and he is sorely missed. May the memory of Yisroel Halpert, Yisroel Yaakov ben David Chaim Alav Shalom, be blessed, and may he be an eternal merit to his family, our community, and the entire Jewish community. I'd like to call upon the chairman of the Fifth Avenue Synagogue, Walter Malofsky, to share a few words.
Good evening. It's really a privilege to be here with all of Israel's family, and his children, and his friends to help commemorate the Yahrzeit, his Yahrzeit. I know Israel and the family for over 20 years that they've been here and have witnessed, as Rabbi Babich has said, and some of my comments will reflect on some of the things he said, because when you hear repetition of his character, of the things that he did, it speaks to the fact that these were the crucial aspects of his service here and his personality. Israel, of course, as we all know, Lane, he davened, he was our beloved ritual director, ensuring that the shul functioned on a daily basis. But in addition to what he did, as Rabbi Babich said, and we did not write our speeches together, it was how he did it. It was the humor, the warmth that he expressed. It was the grace, it was the kindness, the compassion, and of course the humor that pervaded all of his time here, that endeared him to all of us. And it wasn't only in the shul. It wasn't only during services. Israel would visit the sick. He would blow shofar at people's homes. He would read the Megillah on the outside of shul, and served as a representative of the shul, not only here, but in our entire community. And that was deeply, deeply appreciated. All of these qualities that you've heard about are also reflected in his family. And I've had the privilege to spend time over the last 20 years, of course, with Rivka and his children. And I have this image of Rivka sitting at the side of the shul during one of the simchas with her head kind of tilted and this bemused smile on her face as Israel is going to go into one of his humorous stories, and she has her eyes rolled up into the top of her head, as if this is going to be impossible to listen to. But what reflected in that was her love, was her devotion and his devotion to her. it was a symbiotic relationship. It was a partnership, and it was just a beautiful thing to see. I've seen the qualities of Israel in Yair, who, as you know, it meets us very often in davening, and his laning and his voice brings back to us on a frequent basis the expertise and the fluency and the fluidity and the beautiful melodies of his father. David reflects his love of sports. We heard about the Yankees, and I think the Rangers could do better this year, but I think that David reflects and absorbed that aspect of his father's personality. And also, his frequent presence here in shul is deeply appreciated. Okay, he comes to shul, and it's almost as if Israel's walking in the room. And I just want you to know that the times you are here really enhance our service. Esty has this joie de vivre, this wit and humor, which reflects Israel a little bit. And Chavi has this kindness, this demeanor, this gentle demeanor, and Avos HaTorah and Midos that I think Israel, that she got from Israel and was reflected in the way he served us here, but also passed on to the family. It says in Pirkei Avos, I'm going to quote a different pasuk, that he whose good deeds exceeds his wisdom will endure. Israel's wisdom, his Dvar Torahs, his learning, his laning were terrific. But it was the kindness, it was the goodness, it was the gentle spirit that he had that made us all appreciate him, and that's going to ensure that his memory will endure forever. May his memory be a blessing. Thank you.
Rabbi Einseidler, Yisroel's father-in-law, will now do some learning in memory of Yisroel.
My dear friends, it's hard to believe that a year has passed since the death of our beloved Yisroel Halpert. I'd like to dedicate this Dvar Torah in his memory. The Midrash in Bereshis Rabbah says the following: Rabrachia Posach. Rabrachia started a conversation. L'reach shemenecha tovim shema turach shemecha. He says, you know, the verse in Shir Hashirim says, your oils are fragrant. The mention of your name recalls them. To what can we compare Avram Avinu? And the Midrash answers, the tzlocha shel apupl Simon shemukefes samit b'sil u'menachas bizovius. Avram can be compared to a flask of balls and perfume, wrapped in woolen twine, hidden in the corner. The loho yerecha no day, and because it was hidden in the corner, no one could smell the fragrance. When the Midrash continues, Kevon she'aisa miltu telas for yerecha no day. However, once the flask was opened, everyone smelled the beautiful aroma of the balls and perfume. I believe that Yisroel emulated the ways of Avram Avinu. He loved his family, his wife, children, and everyone. And once you met him, you always wanted to be with him. You smelt that aroma of goodness and kindness. We had the pleasure throughout the years to have him over our home every Shabbat night. And it was his dynamic personality that brought us together. And you always wanted to be with him. He was He was personable, always loving, to tell us a good joke. One time, he was at our house, in fact, before he got sick, he made an interesting comment. He says, you know, I love jokes. But one thing I don't have a joke about my in-laws. That's actually what he said. I said, really? You must have done something right. Okay. But today, Toby and I should say, we were impressed with that particular statement. And we always remember it. Have you heard from the Rabbi and the member of the synagogue? He enjoyed immensely to be about Koreh, to be about Tefillah, and any of the jobs that he performed with love and devotion. I think he would sum up his life with the following Mishnah that, in fact, the second Mishnah of Masechta Berachos says, Al Shlosha Devarim Ha'olam Hamed. The world exists for three things. Ala Torah. Certainly, great Balkori, as you heard, lover of Torah. Ala Bodah, his prayer, his Tefillah, after it's about Tefillah. And of course, Gemilas Chasodim, his acts of loving kindness. May his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life.
Ruthie Halpert, Yisroel's mother, will now share some words.
I hope it works. It works. Okay, good evening. Not easy to speak after such illustrious speaker, but I'll try my best. Yisroel Yaakov is called after his grandfather, who was a Holocaust survivor, as we know him really, but he never met this grandfather, because his grandfather died before he was born. But his other grandfather, my father, he did meet. And he inherited certain midos from this grandfather. Number one mido was gematrias. My father, was very, very good in gematrias, and Yisroel was also exemplary in gematrias. And whenever, as Tov, a friend of mine, will attest to it, when he needed a gematria for a certain occasion, he called up Yisroel, and he made a very interesting gematria for an occasion. And a lot of other people did too. Another thing he inherited from my father was his sense of humor. My father had a phenomenal sense of humor, and Yisroel inherited the sense of humor, and so did Esti. Right? It went from one generation to the next. Yair has inherited it a little bit, not to the degree that Esti has it. I mean, we used to roll around in laughter all the time. But Yisroel had it to such a degree that there was an occasion that my mother actually fell off the couch. On Pesach, she was in my house, and he made her laugh so much that she actually fell off the couch. So somebody who can do such a thing for someone, if they're in depression or make them feel good, is a great thing to do. People were sometimes down in the dumps, and he could make people feel good, that they could laugh at the slightest thing. Like, for example, in my house, Eliyahu Hanavi, he opened up the door and invited him in. And we really, as children, they thought, he's coming. He used to do these kind of things. Another thing that somebody mentioned to me that I didn't know, that he knew the name of all the people in the shul. Personally, he knew their name. That takes a lot of work, a lot of effort to get to know people personally, to get to know who they are, to validate people, and makes the people feel validated. So that's why they really liked him. What do you mean? The ritual director of Fifth Avenue Synagogue knows who I am. That must mean something. So that was another one of his attributes. I'm not just saying that he was my son, but that's what he did. Another thing that I noticed a lot, he really, really loved his job. How many people in this world love their job? Huh? Not too many. He really loved his learning. He really loved learning Torah. He gave Chumash shiurim. I sometimes attended to them. They were really nice. He loved what he did. And that's a big thing in life if you like what you do. He loved even rolling the Torahs. I used to watch him sometimes, which was really interesting. In other words, he went to the job with an effort that he put into it, that he enjoyed what he did. Hashem takes note of that. So that is a great, great thing. And his children know all about this. He was a great father, an exemplary husband, a wonderful brother, and an exceptional son who cannot be replaced ever. Thank you. Good evening.
Avi is now invited up to share a poem that she wrote in honor of her father.
So this is a poem I wrote for my dad. All right. I named it You. You, the person with beautiful davening, a special davening that was so captivating. Every word, every lyric was worth listening to, lighting up the room when you davened in shul. You, the person that loved sports absolutely, got me into sports very passionately. By any chance, do you know the Yankees' fate? Because it would sure be great if they win number 28. You, the person that loved his family and friends with all his heart, was there for us and for others always from the start. I know you're watching over us up there, because you were somebody that always expressed love and care. You, Yisroel Halpert was your name. An awesome person who should be in the Dad and Husband Hall of Fame. A heart and soul person in this family. We all love and miss you so much, Daddy.
Esti and Rivka are now invited up.
Good evening. I really don't know what to say, to be completely honest. It's been quite the year, and it's really unfathomable, I can't talk, to imagine life without my father. I know he's with me, and I know he's with my family, but he's not physically here. And it's a very hard thing to have to deal with on an everyday basis. And even though I know that life goes on, and it does, I have a lot to be grateful for. That is something that my dad taught me. It is so important that even when life is hard, it is important to look for the good things, because no matter what, there is always something good there in your life. Every day is a blessing. And he really taught me that, to live my life to the fullest. Don't, care what anybody says. You want to do something, go do it. And I just want to make him proud. And he was such an incredible father. And I know that sometimes I wasn't the easiest daughter, especially in high school. And I think it's because we were so similar. And sometimes when people are so similar, especially a father and a daughter, it's a little difficult to see eye to eye. But I know that even when things were ridiculous or happy or very tough, he was truly always there for me. And even though he had a really funny way of showing it, he really loved me and loves my family so much. And he loves all of you. And you know what? That love is still here. Don't let it think just because he's not physically here anymore that he's not. He is here. He is in the walls of this shul. He is in my home. He is in my family's home. And I know he's watching down on all of us. And as you know, any of you who have been to our simchas, my dad had this thing where he would kind of, perform. And he specifically did not tell my mother what he would do. It was always left as a surprise for her because it would be very obvious that if he told her, she would have said no. So we thought, my mother and I, that it would be very appropriate to celebrate his life, celebrate his memory. Yes, this is so sad, but it is so important to remember the happy person that my father, Yisroel Halpert, was. So without further ado, Mom, are you ready? I would like to introduce my mother. I know. So for all of you that remembers my dad, aside from being a sports fan, he was a tremendous Bon Jovi fan. So it is only appropriate that my mother comes in to give her memorial to Bon Jovi. So without further ado, Mom, you still ready? Okay. Oh, wait for it. I don't know how this works. I don't know how it works. Without further ado, Mrs. Halpert. All right.
I can't believe I actually did.
And I would just like to give major kudos to my mom because the whole time that I was traveling here with my husband, Zach, she's like, should I do this? Should I not? Should I do this? But she did a good job, right? And Shirley would be so proud of me. Really. I bet he's smiling from up above. Without further ado,
Absolutely.
my mother.
Thank you. I really can't believe I actually did this. He really is very proud of me, I'm sure. Before I make my presentation, I first want to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart for being here tonight, whether here in person or on Zoom. And it gives me again an opportunity to thank everybody for all the love and support you showed me and my whole family for the last 3 years. I love you all. As get the clap. As you know, I miss since he had surgery, he really wasn't the same. And actually about a month or so ago, a good friend, Devorah Siviak, sent me a little video of this really finest moment at a bar mitzvah of him dancing. And when I saw that video, I said, that's the Sruli I want to remember. Because he really wasn't himself. He lost weakness on his whole left side and his voice wasn't the same. So I was reaching out when Jacob Gold told me that they were going to do this. I was reaching out to some family and friends, if you have any videos of Yisroel, because a lot of his performances happened on Shabbos or Yantif and you can't record it. And I wish I knew. I should have pressed record when he was singing in the shower because some of his greatest songs happened in the shower. But thanks to everybody who sent me some pictures and videos. This is how I want all of you to remember Sruli. And I want to first thank Sheila
the wonderful Sheila for doing this for me. And William, where are you, William? You set this up. No, when you work at the mikveh at night, you plan all this stuff. So thankfully, I really appreciate it. And I need to thank a good friend and co-worker of mine, Luba Orr, for putting this together for me. So here it goes, Sheila.
How old are you now? 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 Are you 10? Are you 20? Can you believe it?
Blow the candle.
50 years. Oh, I gotta blow out the candles.
Make a wish.
Make a wish. How about them candles? No.
It's not a wish.
Okay, that's true. It's not. Thank you.
Yay!
I did it.
My pleasure.
From my own perspective, just like to mention one thought. Wrote down the Hasidic teachings about the beautiful song that we sing on Friday night in honor of the Jewish woman of valor, Eshet Chayil. That it's a beautiful song and a beautiful prayer which we honor the excuse me, the Jewish woman of the house. It's actually taken. It was written by King Solomon as part of Mishlei, as part of Proverbs. All right. Some say that Eshet Chayil is meant to be a praise of wisdom or a praise of Torah, but for most people, the interpretation is praise of the Jewish wife, the Jewish woman. All right. We say that just like the Hebrew letters in which the Eshet Chayil are written in an exquisite way, so too that's the understanding of the Jewish woman. She's exquisite and special. King Solomon begins by saying, "Who can find a woman of valor? Far beyond pearls is her value. Her husband's heart trusts in her, and she shall lack nothing. She repays his good all the days of her life." Not going to go through the whole thing. Her children rise and celebrate her, and her husband, he praises her. I bet her. I'm a very lucky man. Some of you were with us on Simchas Torah when I had a chance to speak. I had a chance to honor my wife in my shul as I was chosen to be Chassan Torah. For the rest of you, and even for those of you who were here, you get to hear it now. I'm a very, very lucky person. I may be going through a difficult challenge, but I'm blessed to have with me the most special woman in the world. Close my phone. I'd be totally lost without her. She takes care of everything in the house, and more so now than ever, with all the new challenges that she has to cover. The word chayil has many meanings: valor, power, grace, humility. It's also an understanding that the Jewish woman is entrusted with 3 mitzvahs essential to the Jewish home: kashrut, Shabbat, and mikvah. Mikvah does all 3. She also does mikvah for the community. It's brought down that in the Jewish woman's merit, final redemption will occur. According to the Talmud, women were created with extra dose of wisdom and understanding, called Bina Yesera, extra level, deeper level of women's intuition, if you will. Question is asked, why compare a woman's value to that of pearls? Which is how Eshes Chayil begins. In Hebrew, the word for something that's internal, penima, is similar to the word for pearl, penina. A pearl can only be formed inside an oyster. Natural pearls form an irritant, usually a parasite, works its way into an oyster. A fluid is used to coat the irritant. Layer upon layer, this coating is deposited until the dazzling pearl is formed. That's the same thing in woman. Similarly, the Eshes Chayil faces changes and transitions, peaks and valleys, twists and turns. She balances her commitments and responsibilities in the home and the workplace. And through all the challenges and imperfections of life, the Eshes Chayil manages to develop a relationship with God. For she does, it is He who sustains her throughout all the ebbs and flows and all the challenges. Through layer upon layer of strength, courage, persistence, wisdom, and valor, she transforms herself into a pearl, and she becomes radiant. Thus, the glamorous words in Eshes Chayil beckon this potential within. And that, I think, is a great way to explain what Rivka is all about. She is a true personification of an Eshes Chayil, of a woman of power, a woman of valor, a woman of great leadership. My kids are blessed to have her as a mother, as much as I am blessed to have her as a wife. I am so proud of you for all that you do for the family, for me. Throughout all this ordeal, I thank you so much. And with God's help, we'll get through it all.
But we're on the Yahrzeit now of my brother-in-law. I call him Yisroel, and the Shemesh having Aliyah. In this week's parsha, we talk about Aaron lighting the candles, Balos Tanerot, Yairu Shivat Tanerot, and I was just thinking I had his name Yair in there. There you are. So that's like a little sign, And it reminded me of the last time I remember being in the shul before Yisroel got sick. I was here on a Hanukkah. I came one night and I got to see him, and he called me up. He goes, "My brother-in-law's here. He's a member of an a cappella group, Shabbatons, and please join me in the candles." And I have a video which I probably forgot to share with Rivka, so I'll share that. Whoever wants to get it, I guess ask Rivka and she'll send it out to you. But it's of him lighting the candles in the Fifth Avenue, and it was just beautiful the way he sang the Hanei Alalo Mao Sur. And I just feel like it was just apropos that this week he's talking about him lighting the candles, and Aaron lighting the candles, in the temple and the time, and just remembering how Yisroel he dedicated his whole life, and he lit up the shul, and he called Yair, he lit up his life, with amongst all the older kids, and I miss him a lot, and we should just try to do more good things in his memory and remember the fun times. I like that, that's what we have to remember. We can't remember the last couple of years, which were hard. We have to remember the way he lived his life in simcha and happiness, and just keep dedicating himself to the community the way he always did that. Thank you.
Moshe Subiak, followed by Meir Guba, two close friends of Yisroel, will now share some brief words. It is a custom that on Shabbos afternoon, during the summer months, we read Pirkei Avos. The Mishnah in Perek Dalet states, Rav Shimon says, Shloishe Kisarim Haim, there are three crowns, Keser Torah, Keser Kahuna, and Keser Malchus. The crown of Torah, the crown of Kahuna, which today some say that's Tefillah, and the crown of royalty. The Mishnah concludes that the crown of a good name, Keser Shem Tov, Oila Al Gabeim, supersedes them all. The Mishnah just stated there are three crowns, yet goes on to mention four. How can this be? I heard that, of course, there are only three crowns. However, the crown of a good name adorns each and every crown. The crown of Torah was something that was worn by Yisroel as he gave shiurim, taught boys how to learn the Torah, all with a very good name. The crown of Kahuna, which some say is Tefillah, also was done with a good name, as he davened for the Amid so beautifully many times right here in the shul. The crown of royalty was worn as he was regal with the way he treated each and every one here. Every person that would come to Fifth Avenue, he treated them with respect, and everything he did was with a Shem Tov. Looking at everyone here tonight, seeing all of you in attendance, is a testament of his good name and the crown that he wore with his other three crowns. I got to know Hal 22 years ago, as I called him. That's the name I called him, Hal. My brother-in-law's best friend, and when I got married, he became my friend. We grew close over the years. We went to concerts, Bon Jovi, ball games, as you saw in the pictures before, and we shared in each other's simchas. How I really miss the fun times we had, the dancing at the simchas, the singing at concerts, and of course, fun at the ball games. But most of all, I just miss my friend. May his memory and his good name live on forever. Thank you.
That was my wife's wedding that he was singing at there. It was 24 years ago next week, June 22nd. Thank you. He did a great job. And wow. It's been a long year. I still find it hard to believe that Shirley's not here anymore. But here we are, we need to move on. In Judaism, we tend to downplay birthdays, but we're extremely careful to mark someone's Yahrzeit, the anniversary of one's death. Perhaps this stems from the pasuk in Koheles, which says, Tov Yom HaMaves Miyom Hivoldo, the day of death is better than the day of birth. The Gemara compares this to a ship, and it notes how odd it is that when a boat leaves the port, they throw a big party, but when the boat meets its destination, there is no fanfare. It should be the other way around. When we're born with a certain potential, but only at the day of death can we determine whether that potential was reached. When someone dear to us passes away and go back to their port of call, we mourn not having them here with us, but we remember what they were able to accomplish in life. The Yahrzeit commemoration is a time to feel sadness, but also to celebrate the deceased's life and accomplishments. At the funeral, I spoke about how we lost Shirley, and I referenced that he was the light, like the light of the menorah. Once again, this week is Parshas Ba'aloska. And over the course of the past year, I was constantly reminded that he's not here anymore. I missed someone who was smart, witty, and had a great disposition. He always had a good word to say and a good joke to crack. I miss going to games with him, hanging out with him, and my whole family always reminisces when he would come over to the house and watch the Giants and the Cowboys, and he would be vastly outnumbered. Because we're all Giant fans. I even miss his quirkiness and the fact that he was always rushing, because he was always late. I actually remember one time we were going on a flight somewhere. I think Shabbos ended like at 6 o'clock. He had to clean up here in the shul. The flight was like at 11 o'clock or midnight. It was JetBlue. I don't know if you know Terminal 5. It has a really long terminal, and we were like the last, we were at the last gate. And I was like, Mayor, I think you were there. You were there also. And every time in the JetBlue terminal, I always say, remember when Hal ran down, his bags were flying off of him, and he made the flight, but he was all sweaty and he was panting the whole flight. But that's how he operated. But he made it. The key is he made it. Although once he didn't, I won't say that story. That one, it was in Orlando. It wasn't his fault. It was not his fault. They said we're going to be here for a while, so we decided to go to another terminal because we thought it would be like delayed 2 or 3 hours. We get back to the terminal about an hour later, and the plane is on the tarmac waiting to take off. And he goes over to the front, bring the plane back. We got to get back. And I'm like, dude, they're not bringing the plane back. We're stuck here. We're coming back tomorrow. Anyway, I can guarantee you one thing, that he's looking at me and saying, what are you doing here? You should be watching Boston and Golden State. I'm sure the members here of the synagogue miss him as well. And as he always liked to use metaphors, I'll use a sports metaphor. In baseball, there's something called the utility player. The utility player is the guy that could play all the positions, first base, second base, third base, whatever it is. But it just happens to be that the utility player is good at everything, but he's not great at everything. Sully was exceptional. He was like the utility player that was great at everything. He was able to master everything he was asked to do, whether it was reading from the Torah, davening for the Amud, or give one of the Torah classes. He gave his heart and soul to this shul, and I'm sure he'll be eternally rewarded for it. To Rivka and the kids, this past year, there have been constant reminders that Shuli is not with us any longer, whether it's by saying Kaddish, not being here on the holidays, birthdays, and anniversaries. And now the year has passed, and a lot of times, I think I saw someone that Avelis is a year because the mind tends to forget a little bit. But it's our job not to forget and to celebrate his great life and his accomplishments. Mirz Hashem, you kids will have your own families, and speak to them about him, what type of person he was, what he was able to accomplish, and just how we all miss him. Neshama Shabbat and Aliyah, and that's it.
I'd like to call upon Roberta Harvey, who's going to make a presentation to Rivka and the family on behalf of the Women's Club.
Good evening, everyone. Rivka, we truly feel you and your family are so much part of this community. On behalf of the Fifth Avenue Synagogue Women's Club, I would like to present the books that Rabbi Babish will explain about what he's going to be doing with them in memory of Rabbi Yisroel Halpert. So Rabbi Babish, please explain. Thank you.
We all know that the Ein Yaakov is a classic set of sperm that highlights all the different agalitas and the stories and the legends of the Gemara. It's a type of study that Yisroel would most definitely enjoy. He always enjoyed the midrashim and the stories. And our scroll is gradually putting out the entire set, volume by volume. They're probably around a quarter done. And we're gonna, please God, the Women's Club donated whatever volumes they had so far. And we're gonna, please God, continue to purchase the volumes and dedicate it in Yisroel's memory as they come out. So we'll have the complete set, a number of volumes here in the shul. And Rabbi Fishelis is going to be delivering a shiur this summer on this set, and we hope to continue learning these sfarim for many years in Yisroel's memory. I'll read the dedication. It says, dedicated in memory of Fifth Avenue Synagogue Ritual Director Rabbi Yisroel Halpert, a blessed memory, on the first Yahrzeit, the 18th of Sivan, 5782, June 17th, 2022, by the Fifth Avenue Synagogue Women's Club. There's around 20 volumes we have so far, and we hope to gradually increase it as each additional volume comes out during the course of next coming years. And it should be an eternal memory, a blessing for his beloved memory. I call upon Chazan Malavani to conclude this memorial with the Kel Malei Harachim.
למלא רחמים שוכן במרומים המצא מנוחה נכוינה כנפי השכינה במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים לנשמת הרב ישרואל יעקב בן רב דוד חיים שילך לעולמו בעבור שישתו עמו בניו ובנותיו וכל משפחתו. מתפללים ביד אזכרה שנשמסו בגן עדן מנוחסו לכן בעל רחמים יסתירהו בססר כנפיו לעולמים ויצרור בצרור החיים אסם נשמסו אדוני הוא נחלתו וכל קהילת התרסבי מתפללים ביד נשמסו וינוח בשלום על משכבו.